What's up guys, Mitsuba here. So for this DIY video, we'll be installing this Mitsuba Dolce III with INGCO function on this Hilux Conquest. So we'll be going from this to this. So let's get started. So these are the things that you'll be needing to install the Mitsuba Dolce III by your own. So starting with our tools, socket and ratchet and open-ended wrenches, and a cutter or scissor, an electrical tape, heat shrink tube, or self-soldering butt plug connectors. And of course, if you're gonna use this one, I highly recommend using a heat gun as well. But if you're just gonna use the regular heat shrink, then a lighter would pretty much do the job. And of course, an electrical conduit, 1/4 and 3/8 sizes. At least 4 meters would pretty much cover everything up. And if you're gonna use the eco mode or eco mode of the Mitsuba Dolce III, then a switch would be needed. And then also with that one, a wire. So if I'm not mistaken, this is a 22 or 24 gauge wire. And if you don't want to tap from the OEM wiring or OEM harness, then I would highly recommend get a horn connector, a connector for your horn. So this one is specific for Toyota, so it looked like this one. I'll be providing links in the description. So yeah, and then eyelet terminal or O-type terminal. And if you don't have access to self-soldering butt plug connectors, then use this one, terminal connectors, to join the wires. And of course, a crimping tool / wire stripping tool. And depending on your model, you might need some brackets, but for the Toyota Hilux, we won't be needing this. So those are the things that you'll be needing to do this DIY. Alright, so let's have an overview before we install everything in the car so that it will be much easier to understand. So on the box or behind the box, you'll see a wiring diagram that will be also present in the instruction manual. So it's quite easy to understand, especially if you're familiar with auto electricals and if you have a Google Translate with you, so that you could just easily translate everything written on the box. But yeah, to make things much easier, this is how I set it up. So there will be two horns, 390 Hz and 320 Hz. So the 390, you'll connect the yellow cable on that one. There will be also a yellow marker behind that so that you won't mix things up. And then the two red cables that are joined together also goes on top of the 390 Hz horn. And then on the other one, the 320 Hz, the green one would be connected there as shown with a green marker here at the back, and then also the red on top. And then following that harness, you'll be connecting that to the module, this one. And the other blue one, you'll be connecting this one to your stock horn harness. So for this one, it depends on the setup of your OEM horn. So if we look at the box or in the instruction manual, if you have two terminals for your horns and two horns, you will have to tap on both of the wire. For example, on this left horn or left harness, you'll tap these two blue wires on the two cables. Imagine this one goes to your horn, you'll tap it on those two wires. And then if you have two horns but one terminal for each, you'll only have to tap on one of the wires. So for example, these are the two connectors going to your horn. Just connect this blue one on the other one, and then this one on the ground. And if you have similar setup with this one, if you have just a single wire or like overall harness for both horns, same setup. But if you have one horn, two terminals, same with the first one that I've shown you. And then if you have one horn, one terminal, same with this one as well. And then that's for the blue. And then you have this red cable right here. You'll connect that to your battery, positive, to power everything up. And then going to the module, the black cable goes to your ground, and the green one is for the eco function. So if you want to use the eco function, you connect this one to the ground, or if you want to turn it on and off, connect it to a switch. Then the switch will connect to a ground as well. And then if you don't want to use the eco function, then don't connect this at all. Make sure just to cover it with electrical tape so it doesn't get water in it. So yeah, that's the overview of the setup I hope you kinda understand that. So yeah, let's begin installing this one. Alright, so let's start by removing the stock horns underneath the or behind the grill. So to access that one, we'll just remove this panel, and the panel is being held by clips like this one. So in order to remove those clips, just press the middle part, push it down until you hear it click, and then just pop it off. Just be extra careful when removing these clips because it could fly off and you could easily lose it in your engine bay. And then after removing the cover, we'll be removing the stock horn. But before that, let's disconnect the harness. So just press this part and pull it out. And same goes with the other side. And then use a 12mm socket and ratchet to remove the bracket. Out with the old. So now it's time to mock things up. So make sure to lay them out. Make sure that the wire will reach the horns and etc. So just try to find a way on how you could neatly organize your wiring in your engine bay. So in my case, I'll be positioning the horns like this one because the green and red wire is longer than the one with the yellow and red. So in that case, this one will go here and this one will go here. So hence the positioning.
Luckily for the Hilux, you won't be needing any brackets, so you could just directly bolt the new horn onto where the OEM horns were. So when installing a new horn, make sure it doesn't hit anything or it won't be hitting anything else in the engine bay. And then for the module of the Mitsuba Dolce III, make sure to place it on a high place. So in my case, I put it beside the bin plate, so I use zip tie to hold it down and put a rubber padding behind it.
Alright, so for the blue wire, since the Toyota Hilux, similar with the Fortuner and the Nova, only has two horns and then one terminal for each horn, I'll be only tapping or using this one blue wire and then be connecting it to the stock harness of the horn. So in order for me not to splice the OEM harness or wiring, I bought this connector. I'll be splicing it up somewhere around here. So I'll be using this connector. Remember that the stock harness or connector for the horns has this end. So I'll splice it up here and then connect this blue wiring to this one. So that in that case, I won't be damaging the or tapping on the stock OEM harness, and I could just easily disconnect and reconnect everything. Alright, so now it's time to connect wires for our Mitsuba horn. So before that, I'll show you two different ways for you to connect wires. Alright, so starting with the easiest one, you don't need a heat gun here or a soldering iron and whatnot. Basically, you'll just need your terminal connectors like this one, a male and a female, and of course your wire stripping tool and crimping tool. So first of all, strip your wire, not by a lot, just that long, and of course the other end of the wire or the other wire as well. I hope you're seeing that one. And then grab your terminal connector and put it over. So make sure that the insulator reaches this part, like this tab right here, and then the strip part reaches this other part here or the other end here. And then grab your crimping tool and just crimp it. So when crimping it, I do it like this. So the raised part is facing this concave. Yeah, this concave part. And make sure that the wire is well positioned. And just crimp away. So make sure that you match it with the corresponding size on your crimping tool. Just force everything up. And once you're done with the male connector, let's do the other part, the female one. So but first, slide the sleeve, a protected sleeve, and then grab your female connector. So make sure that matches up. Yep, all good. And same thing, An easy tip would be put your terminal to your crimping tool and then just slide it over or into the terminal, so you won't have a difficult time setting it up, and then crimp it. Once you're done, slide over the sleeve and connect both wires. So that's simple. It's just that simple. So the only disadvantage of this type of connecting wires is that it's not waterproof. So specifically if you have like connecting power cables or cables that has power, it should be waterproof. The other disadvantage is it could get loose and disconnect, and you won't have your horn functioning. Also, just to make it somewhat waterproof, you could wrap this up with an electrical tape. So kinda give it like a waterproofing, but yeah, it's not 100% waterproof, but you know, at least we got something. So yeah, that's one, and I'll show you the other one using a self-soldering butt plug connector like this one. So same process, strip your wire about this length, that, and then slide in your self-soldering butt plug connector. So make sure that the insulator reaches the red part, and then beyond the red part should be your strip part of the wire or cable. And then just make sure to join both of the wires, so kinda make them intertwined like this one. Or you could just slide in the self-soldering butt plug connector and then like tangle them up the way you want it. But basically, once it's inside the self-soldering butt plug connector, make them intertwined like that one. Then slide over your butt plug connector and make sure the solder is on the strip part, and then the insulator touches the red part. So now bring your heat gun, turn it on, and let it shrink and melt the solder. So now you could see that the solder melted and joined the two wires together, and that also makes it waterproof. So that is the advantage of having a self soldering butt plug connectors. A much stronger connection for both of the cables or wire, and it's also waterproof and much cleaner to install. It's like more streamlined, doesn't occupy that much space. To make things more cleaner, I like to put shrink wrap over it just to cover the butt plug connector to make things much more cleaner. So there, see, much cleaner and takes much less space compared with the first type of connection that we did. Also for this one, I already covered it with an electrical tape, so we could kinda waterproof it as well, and doesn't get easily disconnected if you're like going to a rough road and you have like a lot of vibration on your car, etc. Actually, there's another way. So the Mitsuba Dolce III comes with this kind of wire connector. So basically, you'll imagine this is the blue line or the blue cable of your Mitsuba. You put it here where there's a stopper, and then imagine this is your OEM cable for the horn. Put it on this side, and then make sure that the wires are touching or over the middle. Fold it in half, like to hold the wires, just like that. And then bring over the one that has the blade on top, fold it over again. So this will cut the wires so that they could conduct each other. I don't know what the term. So bring the bladed part over, and then you could use pliers to pinch them, but your hands will do. So basically it looks like that. But the problem with this one is you're tapping or modifying the OEM wiring or OEM harness. That's why I don't want to use this one. I'll also show you like the traditional way of joining wires or connecting wires by using a soldering iron. So strip your wires a little bit longer, so about an inch or something. Like the ones that I've showed you before, that we only strip like a very small portion, but this one you'll strip a large portion, and then twist the wires together. Make sure that you have a very good connection. Twist them properly. Like so. Of course, before you do that, slide in a heat shrink, and then twist your wires, and then bring your soldering iron and your soldering wire and just heat it up and melt the soldering iron or wire to your connection. Then once you're done soldering, slide on the heat shrink and heat them up. Alright, so pretty much that's all the way that we could connect our wires. So the terminal one, and then like a Cobra version of it, and then also the soldering butt plug connectors, then the connector that comes with the Mitsuba, this red one, and the traditional way of like soldering wires together and then putting a heat shrink on top of it.
So for connecting the blue wire, as mentioned earlier, I'll be using this connector that I bought from Shopee. I already cut it so that I could connect it with the blue wire. So for this one, I used the terminals to connect because at that time I didn't have the butt plug connectors yet. And of course, I also put a terminal on the blue wire, similar to what I've shown in the demonstration earlier.
So before I cover everything up with the insulator, so here's the setup. So green and red with the 320 Hz horn, and then the connecting or the connector to the stock harness is this one. So for this one, I'll still cover this up with an electrical tape, or somewhere in the future I'll have it 100% waterproof, or waterproof as much as possible, but for now that will work. And then this one, it's grounded here. The other blue one is grounded to this part. So I use an M6 bolt for the ground. And then the 390 Hz yellow, and then double red, and then going here. And then the negative, you could either connect it here at the negative terminal of the battery, or other negative other ground part like this one, or somewhere down below there. And then for the power, I connected it here, and then the fuse goes down there and into the module. So for the echo function, we'll do that for the switch. So we'll have a wire running from there inside to the cabin with the push button. So yeah, that's pretty much a basic the overall overview of the setup, and then we'll just cover it with the insulator for the wires.
So when putting a conduit on, you could use a open-ended wrench to make life easier. So the open-ended wrench will open up the conduit as it guides the wire into the conduit.
So now it looks like this after pretty much covering all of the wiring with an electrical conduit for insulation and also protection. And then for the edges of the conduit, I just put some electrical tape there so that the wire won't scrape and get damaged by the edges of the electrical conduit. And also I put some zip ties to organize the wiring. Like for example on this part, so it doesn't touch the intercooler, and also on this part so that it doesn't just hang down there. So now time to install the switch for the echo mode. Alright, so for installing the switch, just try to find the blank on your dashboard. So for the Hilux Conquest, I decided to use this blank. There are 4 blanks here. I decided to use this one. So to remove the blank, Depending on your make and model, you might need to remove some of the panels in order for you to access the back of that blank. But to make things simple for the Hilux, just go underneath your dashboard and behind and try to feel these clips behind the blanks. Just pinch it and push it outwards. So it's a little hard because these clips are kind of hard plastic. But yeah, just pinch them and then push them outwards. And before we install our button, let's run the wire from the engine bay inside our cabin or underneath the dashboard. So for the Hilux Conquest, I'll be using the same hole that the hood latch cable is using. So just go underneath your steering wheel and we'll be looking for this one. So just push the rubber grommet outwards so that we could have an access or we could slip in our wiring.
And then just slide the wire from the engine bay into the cabin through that hole.
And then after sliding the wire or cable through the hood latch grommet hole, we'll slide the cable through the blank right here. And then if you bought the same switch that I did from the Garage Manila, it has 4 wires or 4 cables. So terminal 1 is this one, the yellow and green cable, and then right beside it the terminal 2, which is this red and yellow cable. So those are the 2 cables that we will be using. So the green wire, either connect it with terminal 1 or terminal 2, and then the other cable goes to your ground. Alright, so we won't be illuminating the switch because we don't want to tap power from the OEM wiring and etc. Just to make the installation much simpler. So we'll be just basically using the switch itself and we won't be illuminating it. Alright.
So yeah, just basically connect the 2 green wires or whichever you pick for the switch. So for this one, I already used the self-soldering butt connectors and also covered it with a green heat shrink to make things much cleaner.
And of course, don't forget to put some sort of insulator or insulation for the green wire. So I've already put an electrical conduit for that one, and then also I've already done the other wire. So I've already put the terminal, so we'll just put an M6 bolt in there and find the ground to attach it to, and also put some electrical conduit as well.
Then for the ground, I just use an M6 bolt and there's a holder that's threaded. So for reference, it's just somewhere here near the blank switches. And then going back to the engine bay, I've cut the wire more than I needed just to quickly test everything out. So I've stripped the both ends of the wire and just quickly connected them by just curling them around. And we're gonna test the switch. Alright, so now we have everything temporarily set up. Now we just have to quickly test it out before we sort everything out and organize everything else. So yeah, with the echo mode off, it's the sound. And once we turn it on, it echoes. Alright, so yeah, we're pretty much good. So let's just organize the wirings and finalize everything.
So just align the button and just push it in until you hear it click. And then we could now cut the wire on the engine bay accordingly.
And then for the echo wiring, the green wiring, so just pull the wire from the cabin and then cut it accordingly to the length that you prefer or you need. And then connect the wires from the module and the switch.
And then for the grommet, just keep pushing it back in until it locks into its position. It's a little bit difficult, but yeah, just keep pushing it in until it gets still. Alright, so when putting back this panel for the clips, just push it outwards or upwards until almost half of it is already out. And then just put it in the hole and press it down. Do not press it all the way down like when you're removing it. Just make sure that it's flat and leveled with the outer circle. And just do the same for the other clips.
And we're finally done with the installation of our Mitsuba Dolce III horns. So now let's try it out. And we're pretty good. Alright.
Alright, so that's pretty much it on how you install the Mitsuba Dolce III by your own. So we have the horns right here. And then of course we have the wirings covered in conduit and hidden away so that it looks like an OEM look, as clean as possible. And then what else? Yeah, we have the module right here. If I haven't mentioned it, you should put the module in a high point so it doesn't get wet. And then the negative connected here, the positive connected here. And we have the wiring going into the cabin for the echo switch so that we could turn it on and off right here. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So you could buy a Mitsuba Dolce III here in the Philippines from Parts Papi, the INGCO Imports, TSA, and other auto shops out there. So yeah, they're usually priced around 13 to 14k. That's with an installation. Lower prices usually just sell the actual product, no installation included. But yeah, those are the typical range for the Mitsuba Dolce III here in the Philippines. I'll provide links for them so that you could message them and inquire if they have it on stock. And before I end the video, I would like to thank Peds and JL for helping me out with the wiring and sending me guides. And yeah, so I hope you find this video helpful. Don't forget to like and share this video. And if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing because we'll be having more DIY videos like this in the future. So guys, thanks again and see you on the next vid.